The Avengers have been featured in some of the best story arcs and events in all of comic history. While the team has had many memorable moments on the pages of Marvel Comics, they aren't always perfect. There's also been plenty of times where writers have gone a bit, let's say, astray, and the quality of Earth's greatest heroes' stories become a little bit questionable. So today we're taking a closer look at some of the more groan-worthy, comical, and straight-up strange narratives that have appeared in their past with our list of the top 10 dumbest Avengers storylines. And at 10, Thor's clone. In the original Civil War story event in issue 3 of the series, some weird crap went down. Iron Man, who was pitted against Captain America and the heroes who sided with him over the Superhero Registration Act, found himself in need of boosting his own forces. So what did Tony Stark do? Well, he took cells from Thor, cloned them, and then created a weird doppelganger of the Asgardian god named Ragnarok. So yeah, apparently Tony Stark can clone literal gods. And what happened next was even stranger. In battle, Ragnarok straight up murdered Bill Foster's Goliath by impaling him through the chest. Yeah. Kinda not really Thor's jam, is it? But I guess Ragnarok's cool with murder. In at number 9, DC vs. Marvel. DC vs. Marvel was a 1996 crossover limited series published by DC and Marvel, and it's not really good. The concept behind it? Two cosmic brothers who personify the Marvel and DC universes become aware of each other's existence, and decide to pit their respective universes' superheroes against one another as part of a challenge, with the losing universe ceasing to exist. Which, obviously wasn't really at stake, so as you can imagine, it wasn't super engaging. What's worse is that out of the 11 main battles to occur in the series, 5 of the outcomes were determined by votes from fans. Why is that a bad thing? Well, remember that time that the fans voted for the Joker to kill Jason Todd? Yeah, didn't turn out well, was also super irresponsible. I mean, not saying that fans can't come up with great stories, but these writers are being paid thousands of dollars to also do that, so maybe don't be lazy and Now by the end of it, the two brothers see these matchups as pointless and withdraw from the challenge. So all of this was basically for nothing. Surprise, surprise. The only positive that came from this was that it introduced the Amalgam Universe, a 12-issue series in which characters from the DC and Marvel universes were amalgamated together, which created some pretty dope characters. Darkclaw, everyone? Yeah. And at number 8, Civil War II. Now don't get me wrong, some people really dig Civil War II, but at the end of the day you can't deny it. Civil War II was created as a cross-promotion for the MCU film Captain America Civil War, and that film told the tale of the original Civil War story arc. Civil War II wasn't nearly as good as its predecessor. Many people also felt that Civil War II was a necessary filler story arc to help prepare for 2 other upcoming story events, Captain America Steve Rogers and Secret Empire that followed. Regardless of where you stand on it, it did get mixed reviews, and as the story progressed, its sales declined. This time around, it's Iron Man vs. Captain Marvel, free will versus determinism, surrounding the discovery of an inhuman who has the power to predict the future. The conflict is over whether or not to use his abilities to stop crimes and disasters from occurring. In at number 7, the copyright debacle. Fans of the MCU are no stranger to the fact that the cinematic universe owned by Disney has had to beat around the bush when it came to one particular word and topic that for a long time was off limits. Mutants. Now that the merger with Fox have occurred, mutants are back on the table for the MCU. And Disney. But this legal woe didn't only affect what we saw up on the big screen. In Uncanny Avengers issue 4, there was a whole retcon that had fans groaning like there was no tomorrow. Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver were revealed to not actually be mutants after all. The villain, the High Evolutionary, tells them that Magneto was never actually Wanda and Pietro's father, and that they don't actually carry the mutant gene, which kind of makes a bunch of stories prior to this super redundant. Like House of M? Yay, retconning. So what's the truth? Well, instead the High Evolutionary is apparently responsible for giving the twins their powers, all part of a scheme of his to find genetic perfection. They were experimented on as children, similar to what we see in the MCU film Avengers Age of Ultron, except, not with Loki's staff. So why did the retcon happen? Well, around that time relations between Marvel and Fox weren't so hot, and many speculated that this was a move to help give Marvel the upper hand concerning the twins. In at 6, Heroes Reborn. Heroes Reborn is often seen as one of the low points in the history of the Avengers story arcs. It was a crossover that occurred from 1996 to 1997. In the aftermath of the Onslaught story event, a bunch of heroes, including the Avengers, were killed off, only to be reborn in a pocket universe created by Franklin Richards, the near-omnipotent son of Fantastic Four members Reed Richards and Sue Storm. This allowed for the revision of a slew of Marvel heroes' origins. As you can imagine, many of these changes were controversial and did not bode well with fans. It was also notorious for some pretty bad artwork, with female characters being drawn wildly out of proportion and other characters, like Captain America, looking like this. It's like his chest is a literal shelf, you guys. He could balance a TV on that. Come on, Rob Liefeld. In at 5, Avengers issue 178. Moving away from story arcs to one story in particular, in at this number we have a filler story that appeared in Avengers issue 178 from 1978 called The Martyr Perplex. In it, Beast is having a night out on the town, picking up women at a nightclub. Like, actually. He gets assaulted by some random dude at the club, then storms out where he's attacked by a strange apparition of a man who claims to be hurt by any spiritual harm that Hank McCoy is inflicted with. That apparition is like never really brought up again. Shows up at the end of the story, but like there is no closure, no conclusion. That's it. Beast is kind of like shook by it, but then the following week it just doesn't faze him anymore and he goes out clubbing again. Ugh. But turns out that this is all part of the villain, the Manipulator's plan to get Beast under his control, a play that he plans on reenacting with all of the Avengers. Beast is under his mental control until Agent Marsden shows up, and then Beast eventually just comes back to his senses. All in all, kind of a waste of a story. Oh, and for context, Beast was a part of the Avengers at this point in time. And at number 4, Captain America's Steve Rogers. One of the biggest crossover events over at Marvel in 2017 was Secret Empire. While there's a lot to say about that story event, it didn't make our list. Rather, the story arc that led up to it did. And it features one of the most prominent members of the Avengers. It's 2016's Captain America Steve Rogers. This storyline was highly controversial, coming out briefly after the election of US President Donald Trump. Now, many critics made a correlation between the two. Comics do have a history of being highly impacted by the political and social context of what's going on in the real world. This is something that dates back to the Golden Age. So it was a fair assumption, despite the fact that the creative team behind the story at Marvel denied there was any inspiration from US politics. Anywho, the story followed the tale of how Captain America had been replaced by an evil version of himself who was a member of Hydra and was a straight up fascist. He was acting as a sleeper agent who was covertly preparing to establish Hydra as the main world power. Secret Empire would address the aftermath of this, making Cap good again. But at the time, people were really pissed off that a character like Steve Rogers, who stood for patriotism and everything that's good about the USA, could be altered so easily into the exact opposite of that. Now, no comment from us on the Trump similarities there, friends, although I'm sure if you Google it, you could find a whole lot of think pieces about the ordeal. In at number 3, The Rape of Miss Marvel. This one is so painfully cringeworthy. Captain Marvel, aka Carol Danvers, went through quite the shitstorm back in her Miss Marvel days. Girl has dealt with some serious trauma, and part of that trauma is from this strange story arc, which began in the Avengers issue 200 from 1980. In a story written by Bob Layden, David Michelin, George Perez, and Jim Shooter, Carol is kidnapped by someone named Marcus, the son of Immortus, who is a longtime Avengers foe. She's taken to an alternate dimension, brainwashed, raped, and then impregnated. When she returns to Earth, she gives birth to the child who turns out to be Marcus, who then rapidly grows into an adult and then takes Miss Marvel back to his dimension. This is all without any protest from any of the other Avenger members, something that received a whole lot of outrage. Comic historian Carol A. Strickland wrote a famous essay on the story arc called The Rape of Miss Marvel, in which she cited a line from Marcus as evidence that his actions were in fact rape. He said, I quote, "Finally, after relative weeks of such efforts and admittedly with a subtle boost from Immortus' machines, you became mine." Yeah, that does not sound like consent. Chris Claremont, who would take over the story in Avengers Annual Issue 10 in 1981, actively went about trying to fix the mess that the story made, having stated he too felt it was inappropriate. Carol would return to the Avengers and give them hell for not doing anything to try to help her when she was clearly in need. She would eventually leave the team, joining the X-Men, eventually taking on the binary persona. And at number 2, Ultimatum. Ultimatum, which took place in the Ultimate Universe, is often considered to be crude and excessive. It's a story arc that took a lot of heat from critics and fans alike. The 2009 storyline stretched the span of 5 issues and follows the events of Magneto's attempt to destroy the world, after the deaths of his children, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. It also acted as a means of closing up the Ultimate Universe, which pissed off a lot of fans too. So in the story, the planet suffers a doomsday of sorts, with natural disasters wreaking havoc across various parts of the globe. Magneto is responsible. During that, that, and in the aftermath, a ton of heroes die horrible deaths. Blob literally eats the Wasp's body, noting that she tastes like chicken, to which Hank Pym loses his shit, grows giant in size, and then bites off the Blob's head as an act of retribution, all while a horrified Hawkeye watches on. It's pretty nasty. Magneto also kills Wolverine by ripping the adamantium from his skeleton and then affecting his cells so that he can't regenerate. Now eventually Magneto is defeated with Cyclops disintegrating his head with an optic blast, only to later be assassinated himself by Quicksilver, who turned out to be alive after all. And finally, in our number 1 spot, Avengers: The Crossing. The Crossing is often thought to be one of Marvel's worst crossovers ever. Long story short, Tony Stark became bad, got killed, was replaced by a younger version of himself, but actually not really. Sort of, kind of. If that didn't make any sense to you, don't worry, the full-blown story doesn't really make much sense either. So when it begins, Tony has got a secret, and he's going around killing women for some reason in order to keep that secret. Hank Pym, aka Yellow Jacket at the time, tries to stop him from killing an Inhuman named Marilla, but Tony still ends up killing her anyway and murders Yellow Jacket on the front steps of the Avengers mansion. This prompts the Avengers and the Force Works, a team that was composed of old West Coast Avengers that Iron Man had led for a while, to time travel. They go back in time, recruit a younger Tony Stark to help defeat the older modern-day Stark, because this all makes sense. Teenage Stark was supposed to replace regular Stark in the Marvel Universe, but due to reader backlash, writers revealed that instead, Kang the Conqueror, who present-day Stark was supposed to be in cahoots with, was actually Immortus all along. And teenage Stark and present-day Stark just ended up merging, and it was all a big mess. There's also a ton of plot holes in the story and a bunch of nonsensical characters inserted into the fray that didn't really add anything to the narrative. I guess people just don't want to see Tony Stark as a bad guy, or at least a poorly written bad guy. Alright, there we have it, friends. What other Avengers storylines in the comics do you think are dumb? Are there storylines in the MCU that you think should fall into this category as well? Thor the Dark World. Give us a shout in those comments below and let us know all of your thoughts. If you dug this video, spread the love, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video with a friend who loves the Avengers. In the meantime though, thanks for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.